Hello everybody, my name is Alexander and welcome to my version of Yin Yoga. Today we're going to be focusing deeply in the hips as well as bringing the body into a very calm and relaxed state. It is currently about 8 o'clock in the evening, and so we're all getting ready to go to bed or to wind down. So we're going to use some techniques to also down regulate the body's nervous system to just bring yourself to a very calm, relaxed, and restful state. We're going to start off with one of my favorite poses. It is the 90-90 shin box. That's an English way to say it. Bernie Clark, if you follow Bernie Clark and his book, The Complete Guide to Yin Yoga, he refers to this pose as deer pose. I'm unfamiliar as to what that is in Sanskrit. So we're going to take our blanket. All right, we're going to have it folded because we're looking for a slight elevation, very slight elevation. So you all will mirror me. I'm placing my left leg, okay? Just the left side of my hip. That would be your right side. My left leg, 90 degrees at the hip. Left kneecap, 90 degrees. Left ankle, 90 degrees. Okay? I'm going to do the same thing now with the side or back leg. My right hip to knee, 90 degree angle. Right knee to ankle, 90 degree angle. Right ankle to big toe, 90 degree angle. Now if you have a spare block or bolster, you can use this because you'll notice how your body wants to shift to the side of the dominant leg. So our goal is to move in the opposite direction. And with our front leg only slightly elevated, we're placing our hips at a better mechanical advantage to open up this groin and inner thigh. We're continuing to shift and drive this knee outward and bringing your groin down towards the floor. Now that we've come into this position, we'll try to implement our parasympathetic dominant pranayama or our slower rhythmic breathing, okay? So as you breathe into the entire torso, belly, chest, and rib cage. Make it slow and long, exaggerated. Exhale slowly out as well. As you inhale, fill up the entire rib cage. As you exhale, push the inner thigh and knee further away. Now, one of the key elements of yin is extended poses. We're looking at minimum 3 minutes, upwards of 10, 20, 30 minutes, potentially, depending on the pose. The long, extended holds are so that we can move past the muscles and into our connective tissue, our fascia. You'll take your right hands to the outside of the left knee. The goal is to stay upright. Don't lean yet. We're going to stay upright and then rotate as far to the left as possible. You're squeezing that back hip, your right glutes. You're gripping, using that as a tool to elevate your ribcage higher. You may find that your shoulders want to creep up close to your ears. Can you keep those shoulders down and away? Each exhale, we feel the space in our inner thighs and hips open up just a little bit more. Keep the legs exactly as they are. Come back to center. Take your hands. Rotate your torso to face the back thigh, so legs don't change. You just twist your body. What do you feel in this back hip? So I personally like to add some variety into my yin class by taking a basic pose, this 90-90 shin box. And although we're adding many variations to it, the base of the pose ultimately gets held for the extended period of time. We may change, but the base doesn't. Take your torso, bring it back to center. Now, we've done the left side, we've done the right. We're going to start to make it more passive, okay? Because this is yin. Being passive is very important. So as we rotate back over towards the left, start to bring your torso down to the ground. Find a comfortable position, if it's available. What do you feel? Reminding yourself to breathe deeply. At some point, your body's going to be agitated. You should just figure that as part of the equation. But unless something is about to snap, something is about to break, can you just sit there and acknowledge that discomfort? I know it sucks. I know you don't like it, and that's okay. But unless it's about to tear, can we just observe that dull ache? Start to lift your torso back up. Wiggle yourself deeper. We're staying where we are, but try to wiggle yourself even further. Now we're going to twist or keep our chest straight forward. walk the hands and come as close to the ground as you can. Now it's important to approach the pose as you are today. As I shared with y'all earlier, my left hip is hurting pretty badly. So I'm extremely limited in this particular pose. You'll notice the difference on the other side. However, this left hip is not something I deal with on a daily basis. But unfortunately, the pain flared up recently and it's something I have to deal with today. So approach this pose as it is. Notice if you have any tension in the forehead or at the jaw. Space in between your eyes. Slowly start to lift yourself up. And then we will take our last variation on this side. You can make it easier and turn your chest towards the back leg and then start to recline. This is the easier variation. Or you can keep your torso facing straight forward. Walk the hands back. This is significantly more challenging. Now pause. Make sure that your right knee stays down on the ground. This knee can't come off the ground. Squeeze this butt cheek and recline. Are you breathing? Can you keep the body as passive as possible? You may notice your body start to resist and fight. And our goal is not to fight back, but to de-escalate. Lower the tension. Take a few more breaths. Breathe into the entire torso, not just the belly, not just the chest, not just the neck. Lift yourself up. Slowly unwind. Before we make our way to the other side, no rush, right? A big part of this is the observation and just becoming aware of the left and the right side. So your legs are out in front, right? Maybe you pull your sits bones away from each other, the flesh away from your sits bones. Do you notice a difference between the contact of the left side of your hip and the right side of your hip? If your hips are height, right? If one hip is slightly higher than the other, then obviously you're gonna feel a difference. So the goal is just becoming aware. If one leg is slightly reached further than the other, that causes a rotation at the hips as well. So it's just a quick checkup, just to become aware. And then we move on. One of the cautionary tales with Yin is because there's not a whole lot of movement. You're holding poses for extended periods of time. People get bored. And so we want to make sure we have our opportunities to check in, check up, and make sure we're still mindful and aware. So we line up our right thigh, 90 degrees at the hip, 90 degrees at the knee, 90 degrees at the ankle. Our left hip, 90 degrees at the hip, 90 degrees at the knee, 90 degrees at the ankle. You'll notice your weight wants to shift over to the right. You are using the friction of your mat to push into the bolster and or block to maintain this upright torso as opposed to a sagging, leaning, scoliosis-bound torso. So this is my affected hip. This is, right now it's on fire. And so, I have a question, I have a dilemma in my practice today. Do I push myself and potentially exacerbate this issue? Or do I stay on the slightly cautionary side and just emphasize bringing the pain down and my tolerance up? I could easily make this about just flexibility. So screw the inflammation. I'm gonna just stretch it. Or I could make it like, hey, again, this is what I'm looking for. So deep breaths here. Take your left hand to the outside of that right knee. Try to stay upright with your torso and then twist. Try to contract the left glute so that we can open up this front spiral line on the front anterior side of your body. Bring your torso to center. Each time we come back to center, we try to scoot the back leg a little bit further back. Get the groin a little bit closer to the ground. Next, we'll twist into our left leg or your back leg. Mindful of your shoulders. It's very easy for them to creep up near your ears. Rotate back to center. Sit up tall. Rotate to the right. And then attempt to find a reclining position. Mindful of the deep breath. Your mind may start to drift, and that's okay. But I'm going to ask that you delay your sleep just for a little bit. Later on in the practice, if you would like to fall asleep, that is perfectly fine. But let's get through this part first. In fact, I would even encourage you to fall asleep through the other stuff. But let's do this first. Start to press yourself off the ground. To the front we go. Our hands frame the right foot, and we walk as far forward as is feasible. So you may notice if you're watching this video that you see a substantial difference. I'm easily able to bring my chest and forehead towards the ground on this side with my right leg in front because my left hip is the one that was acting up when it was externally rotated. So it's up to you during your own practice to take and find these notes, these discrepancies on the left and right side, Maybe you should hold more on one side, or you should hold a little less on the other. Slowly start to lift your torso. And for the last variation, you can either turn towards your thigh, your back thigh, to make it easier, or you can stay facing forward and recline backwards. This is the more challenging of the two. Oh, wow. Okay. That's as far as we're going. Are you tensing up your forehead? Are you gritting your teeth? A few more breaths here. Start to lift your torso and slowly, very, very slowly, unwind. Oh my God. We come back to a neutral seated position. What do you feel? Do you feel like the overall awareness in your hips is better? The movement's capacity? Play with it, you know? These aren't necessarily rhetorical questions. You should always question everything, right? Be critical of everything. Don't just take my word for it. I encourage you, right, to not criticize, but to be critical. Be a critical thinker. Okay, so we worked on our hips. Now I would like to work on the upper body for the second half of the class as we continue to move deeper into our restorative nirvana, samadhi, bliss We're gonna come onto our bellies. You won't need any bolster or blanket for this next part. Just flat on your belly. I want you to have your hands underneath your shoulders. And then look at your left hand. Your right hand is going to extend out to the side onto the number 3 on an analog clock, okay? So your right arm is at a 90-degree angle, right from the shoulder. You're looking at your left hand, feet together. You're going to stack your left hip on top of your right. Rolling onto the right side of the body. Now there's many variations. You can go for the bent left leg to add deeper into the twist. You can keep the left leg straight. Whatever is going to suit you and the space that you have available. And as I told you before, we're going to be here for a while because the challenge in Yin is not pushing yourself deeper, but being able to hold still for longer. Don't allow your right shoulder to creep up towards your ear. Keep the space in between your right shoulder and right ear. If you haven't tried to shift a little bit deeper, maybe you give yourself one final nudge. Slow. Start to roll from the top part of your body down, piece by piece, onto your belly. Until you're completely there. Ouch. I just stuck my foot in incense, a lit incense, and it burned. It's okay though. Oh, now we're gonna slowly switch sides. Extend your left arm out to the number 9 on a clock. Feet together. Ouch. Then we'll stack our right hip on top of the left. So make sure I don't burn myself again. Whichever variation is speaking to your body today, whether your feet stay on top of each other, whether your feet are staggered, your right knee is bent, or straight. Breathe deep into the entire torso. Noting areas of pain or discomfort, and making adjustments as necessary. If it's pain, we have to shift. If it's discomfort, maybe we just observe. Take maybe 4 more breaths here. And then slowly make your way back onto your belly. Oh my God. Breathe. Maybe kiss the floor. Okay. Now, we're going to set up for our last pose. Our last pose is an extended pose. We're going to be holding it for quite some time. This will also be the pose we finish in our Shavasana. So, I recommend you start off in the easiest version of the pose. then over time, make your way into the deeper variation. So here's what we're going to do. We're going to take our bolster. All right, you can also use a block. A block will be more aggressive. Now, if your back is super, super stiff, you make a pillow with your blanket, okay? The bolster is basically going to separate you right at your heart. Okay, so the bolster is underneath my heart. I lay down. My butt is on the floor. My shoulder blades are on the floor. The back of my head is on the floor. Now, you should only have a blanket if you absolutely need it. Honestly, I don't for this particular thing, so I'm going to remove it. My arms are by my sides. My shoulders are not all up in my ears. They're down and away, palms facing forward. Make sure the bolster is straight across your spine. And then in this position, just emphasize deep breathing. Not just expanding the front side of the body, but try to expand the back side of your body into the bolster and floor as you inhale. As we move deeper into this pose, we'll take our right leg only and straighten it out. But also bringing the right leg slightly to the side. How does this affect the way that you breathe? Your psoas and the bottom of your diaphragm attached to the same place along your lumbar spine. So if this right hip flexor is tight, it's going to affect the way that you breathe. Do you feel anything? In addition to the right leg moving at a diagonal, take your left arm, move it in a diagonal in the opposite direction. I want you to imagine you are being pulled apart by your right foot and your left hand. Continue to extend the right heel and left middle finger further apart from each other for a few more breaths. Slowly bring your left arm back down by your side. Slowly bring your right leg back to center. And then bend the knee. We'll move directly into our left leg. Extend just the left leg. As if somebody was pulling the leg away from your body. Are your breaths still creating space? In addition to your left foot, take your right arm, reach it up and over at a 45-degree angle. Breathe into this diagonal line across the body. Use the entire rib cage with each inhale. Empty out the entire rib cage with each exhale. Bring the right arm back down to your side. The left leg will join. We have 2 more variations in this final pose. Have your knees bent, bottoms of the feet together. Interlace your fingers behind your head, elbows open wide. Then we allow the knees to open wide. Keep the bottoms of your feet together. There should be a natural curve in the lower back. The entire front side of the body expanding to the ceiling. But at the same time, the entire back side of the body is expanding to the floor. If your knees aren't touching the ground, can you breathe deeper into your inner thighs specific? If your shoulders are shrugging towards your ears, can you move them further down and away? Create length along the back of your neck. Slowly unwind your hands. And for the very last variation, we'll start to straighten out the legs. Allowing them to just open as passive as possible. While on your back, with the body still emphasizing deep breath, can you send your attention down to your feet? Search for your pulse at your feet. Every time your heart beats, it sends that pulse, that vibration all the way down to the little bitty toes. And allow that pulse to calm and relax, fading back into the darkness of obscurity. Our attention moves upward to our calves and shins. Without engaging, without squeezing, just become aware of this area and the pulse that naturally arises. the pulse allows us to become aware and focused on a very fixated point. But we allow the pulse and that awareness to again fade back into obscurity as our awareness shifts upward into the thighs. Without moving the body, can you feel the pulse in the thighs? Can you feel the pulse of the inner thighs beating together towards each other? To become aware of our pulse, it's so subtle. Just as easy as the awareness came to us, the awareness will leave us and continue to move on to the next space of our hips, our pelvis. Can you feel your pulse specifically in this fixated place? To fade. Now returning back to your belly button and lower back area, this lower abdomen. We often feel our pulse in this area when we're anxious or tense. But can we find our pulse when we're at complete ease? Shift the awareness to the upper abdomen. Acknowledging the sensation of the pulse. And allow it to fade as well. The chest and shoulder blades. This is the area where we should feel our pulse at its easiest. But it's not always the case. What about in your arms? Can you feel your pulse at the different points along your arms? Can you feel it in your fingertips? Finally, allow your awareness to come to your throat, your head and face. Can you feel the pulse near your temples or above your eyes? Does your pulse vibrate all the way down to your chin? Or does it move to the space in behind your eyes? Bring your attention back to your fingertips and toes. To your wrists and ankles. Become aware of your knees and elbows. Shoulders and hips. From the top of your crown, down your neck and your spine, all the way to the tips of your tailbone. Bring one hand to your heart, one hand to your belly. May you have the strength to change the things in your life that you can. The courage to accept the things in your life that you cannot, and the intelligence to understand the difference. Thank you for allowing me to guide you in your practice. And until the next time that we meet on your mats, namaste.